Hey there, friends. I finally talked to RIFLEREMEDY2000. I know this is a person that we've been wanting to speak to for quite some time now, and it's been somewhat elusive as far as us getting a chance to have some words with him. And I spoke to him last night, so I wanted to put all this information out as quickly as I could. I'm working on an interview with him, an actual interview where you guys can hear him, because I know there's still some people out there that are going to go, how do you know you're not talking to a Fed? I just know that I'm not, but I think that it would be important that we actually do a full-blown interview where you guys can hear his own words from him. He's definitely willing to do that. He's talking to his attorney right now to see if he can do that. So hang tight for that. That may be coming very, very soon. But just to give you folks a little bit of a timeline here, March of this year, 2022, several guys from the ATF showed up to his house with a warrant. The ATF then proceeded to put him literally in a corner, asked him to sit in a corner in his own house while they went through everything. They tore everything up. He said they turned his place upside down. He even mentioned that at one point they had a couch on its side against the wall. They were trying to disassemble his printer to see if there was anything in the printer. It's as if they were not only looking for something, but they were trying to send the message that we will do every ridiculous, stupid thing we have to send the message to you that we are going to do everything ridiculous that we have to send that message. Because it's very, very pointless, some of the stuff that they actually did. And they took a ton of stuff. They actually took not only records and files and computers and things like that, but they also took this man's series of polymer 80 kits and upwards to $3,000 worth of 6-hour optics that he had an inventory to sell on Gunbroker. Why would the ATF, if they're coming and in their warrant they name why they're coming because of illegal machine guns, that's still what the ATF is sticking to. If they're doing that, why would they leave with polymer 80 kits? I realize polymer 80 kits are a hot topic right now for the ATF. It's a totally separate issue. It's a totally separate ruling. Again, they had a warrant that was specific to, quote, machine guns. Why leave with polymer 80 kits? And more importantly, why would you leave with boxes of 6-hour optics unless you were taking the opportunity to just steal additional inventory that you never intend to give back? That's not going to be admissible for evidence because it has nothing to do with the case if there's ever any charges filed. So it's the ATF doing ATF stuff. Like I told the gentleman, they're probably on all their private guns right now, the 6-hour optics. And the polymer 80 kits, they probably all have shiny new ghost guns. There was no reason for them to steal that from that man, but they did it because they can do it. And no one tells them anything. ATF agents also sat outside his ex-girlfriend's house for upwards to 3 days until they were able to talk to her and catch her on the street and ask her things about Rifle Remedy 2000. So they stalked this lady for 3 days just to talk to her. Now, when they pilfered through all of his computers and took everything computer related that they wanted that they could go through, they told him as they were leaving, you can give us your passwords and we'll give your computers back to you quickly and as soon as possible. But if you don't give us your passwords, we'll keep them for much longer than what we actually need them for. Another threat. I've said it many, many times. When these guys are not on camera, this is how they conduct themselves. When they're on camera, I'm not saying that they're perfect gentlemen because they're absolutely not. But they at least know what they better not say. But this is how they conduct people with these idle little threats and these little petty ass threats. This is how they do it when they don't think anybody's listening or watching. Now, the number one topic that I think all of us want to know about is how did the ATF get all of the customer information? Because ultimately that's what we're mostly concerned with based on the high number of Rifle Remedy 2000 people or customers who are being contacted by the ATF. How did they get all this information? How did they get all of the names, the addresses, exactly what you bought, all that kind of stuff? How did they manage to do that? Rifle Remedy 2000 told me that the only information that they would have been able to get from him, from his computers, is that he kept a Google Sheets document. If you guys are familiar, Google has their own version of what an Excel spreadsheet would be. And he had all of that listed on there, and mainly to keep track of what his profit was. He had the name of the customer, first and last name only, the item number that they purchased, or the name of the item that they purchased, the shipping cost of what it cost him to ship it to that customer, what the customer paid for the product, the retail cost that they paid through Gunbroker, and then what his actual cost was. In other words, his wholesale cost. This is so that he could do obviously the subtractions and figure out what he had actually profited off of each item. There was no address on there. None of the pertinent information that the ATF has. Again, you would almost have to have a Gunbroker account to know what item it was, which, I mean, easy enough, cross-reference it onto Gunbroker, but to know what the item was because he had item numbers on there. So yeah, what they could have gotten, of course, is the customer's name and the customer's item that they actually got. Now, the cost stuff I don't think has anything to do with anything. So yeah, maybe the ATF got that and then cross-referenced that with their database of people out there. But as far as having a laundry list of stuff that was every bit of pertinent information that could be tracked back to each customer, they didn't get that from Rifle Remedy 2000. Again, he just simply didn't have that information on there. In fact, he never needed that information on there. Just for a little bit of clarification, when you're dealing through Gunbroker, the seller doesn't need to know anything about where the person is. All that is handled through Gunbroker. Gunbroker is that third-party purchaser, or a third-party broker, I should say, where the seller sells essentially to the buyer, but the transaction happens through Gunbroker. Gunbroker is who needs to know what that buyer's address is. The seller doesn't care and doesn't need to know, so he never acquires that information. He never gets it. That buyer is giving that information electively to Gunbroker, and then that's who sends the part to them. The seller in his corner never knows any of that because he doesn't care and he's not tied into that account, or that transaction rather, between Gunbroker and the buyer. So he never receives that information. This seems like an awful lot of work for the ATF to go through pulling stuff off of his computer if they in fact got in, because by the way, he did not give them his password, so they have to get in there, which I know is not a huge deal, but he did not. He refused to give his password. So what happened was, in the course of conversation, I asked this gentleman, I was like, well, is there another place that all of this information would have been housed that somebody could have gotten it all from? He said, well, obviously Gunbroker. But if they didn't get it from Gunbroker, which he doesn't think that they got it from Gunbroker, this is who he said could have it. And I will tell you right now, this is my guess. Shippo. Shippo is a shipping organization. They have one called Pirate. There's a few others out there, like little independent, smaller shipping organizations. They buy in bulk so that they can sell it to you a little bit cheaper, like a shipping label. It still gets shipped through some of the other carriers like the U.S. Postal Service, UPS, FedEx. So they're not a shipping organization. They just pay to have your product shipped on those places. They have the item list. They'll have the customer's name. They'll have, obviously, where they live. They are a big place that has all that as far as the database goes. Now, why would you think Shippo would do that? Shippo is domiciled out of San Francisco, California. If there's not a better hotbed of liberal anti-gun people concentrated in one area other than New York, it's definitely going to be in that area over there in California. That's definitely where. So my guess is, and I'm going to make some phone calls. Of course, they're not going to tell me anything, but just so that we have the information, I'm going to reach out to the folks at Shippo and just get some ideas if they're cooperating with the ATF in this investigation, which, by the way, again, no charges have been filed. So it's a weird ongoing investigation where nobody's been charged. But nevertheless, I'm going to reach out to them and see if I can find something out. Who knows, guys? I just know this is a huge story, and it's very important. I think this is a very critical piece of this entire story as to where is that data coming from, because it's probably going to expose some other people that do need to be exposed. Again, guys, I'm working on trying to get an interview with Rifle Remedy 2000. He is checking with his attorneys today to see if that's possible. If it is possible, we were going to most likely do that pretty quick. A quick shout out to Washington Gun Law. A lot of you guys pointed me in his direction because he had spoken to Rifle Remedy 2000. We were not having any success reaching out to Rifle Remedy 2000, and Washington Gun Law, William over there, was kind enough to make that connection with Rifle Remedy 2000, and I did in fact speak to him yesterday. So big shout out to William Kirk over at Washington Gun Law YouTube channel. You guys might want to go check them out if you don't already know of him. I appreciate him putting me in touch with Rifle Remedy 2000. Again, thank you so much for that. Guys, stay tuned. A lot more to come on this.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.